And we are live.
Yay! Happy Monday. I am old new dude. He is.
Richard York, Asher's newborn son.
I hope everybody had a good weekend. I can't complain. Pretty good weekend. Definitely a better weekend than I had Friday live stream. The Valencar, who has been following me and Richard since the beginning, he understands it was a tough chapter. I told him it's the toughest chapter for me, and I appreciate him being on the journey with us through the ups and downs of these chapters. And even after all this time, it hits so hard. It just gives George R. R. Martin's words validation for how powerful they are. Still a tough chapter. So I'm glad we're past that point. Even if this is the aftermath, we still see some stuff. It's not Rob getting stabbed in the heart.
Yeah, and of course this makes it that much more questionable when at the end, right? Because he's willing to kill off like the major Stark characters, including a point of view, and you're like, oh, she takes the axe to the back of the head, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked before about how George will break the rules when it helps tell the story, right? That people are like, oh, this is the one time, Victorian's the one time when George breaks the rules. Like, no, it isn't. He breaks the rules whenever he needs to.
Yeah, but
people think he does it more early, and that's part of why the Victorian one sticks out is because he's kind of gotten more firm with the rules as he went, and then he breaks it with Victorian. But I still say that he'll just break the rules when he needs to if it helps the story.
Well, he does kind of write the rules in favor of himself a little bit.
Sure.
He has total control.
Well, he never makes it a rule. It's just something that he does consistently, and then occasionally he violates it. And so if you're not paying attention, you don't really realize that he kind of bends them here and there every now and then and so forth. And I think it's only like one paragraph for Victorian. People make a big deal out of it and say, this is the only paragraph he ever did this. And I'm like, no, it's not. Anyway.
Let's get the book ready. I actually looked and saw what chapter number it was this time. In the title for the live stream, I almost typed out, yay, I got the chapter number right compared to last time.
And I definitely remember, I did see that. And I definitely remember, I definitely recommend to people who are low on like Google's Gmail space and so forth to look and see if you're backing up your videos to Google Photos. And if you upload those videos as private videos to YouTube, you can then delete them out of Google Photos and I would then put them in playlists, private playlists for yourself, so you'll understand what you categorize that as and so forth. But the videos are what take up a lot of space, right? So if you have videos that are synchronizing to Google Photos, it's probably a good idea to consider switching those into private YouTube videos with private playlists.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, Storm 52, Arya 11. His axe took her in the back of the head. The feast tents were behind them now. They squished over wet clay and torn grass, out of the light back into the gloom. Ahead loomed the castle gatehouse. She could see torches moving on the walls, their flames dancing and blowing in the wind. The light shone dully against the wet mail and helms. More torches were moving on the dark stone bridge that joined the twins, a column of them streaming from the west bank to the east. The castle's not closed, Arya said suddenly. The sergeant had said it would be, but he was wrong. The portcullis was being drawn upward even as she watched, and the drawbridge had already been lowered to span the swollen moat. She had been afraid that Lord Frey's guardsmen would refuse to let them in. For half a heartbeat, she chewed her lip, too anxious to smile. The hound reined up so suddenly that she almost fell off the wain. 7 bloody buggering hells, Arya heard him curse as their left wheel began to sink the soft mud. The wain tilted, and that's a bit of a redirect, right? Because you're thinking that he's worried that their wheel is sinking. No. The wain tilted slowly. Get down, Clegane roared at her, slamming the heel of his hand into her shoulder to knock her sideways. She landed light, the way Ciro had taught her, and bounced up at once with a face full of mud. Why did you do that? She screamed. The hound had leapt down as well. He tore the seat off the front of the wain and reached in for the store belt he'd hidden beneath it. It It was only then that she heard the riders pouring out the castle gate in a river of steel and fire. The thunder of their destriers crossing the drawbridge, almost lost in the drumming from the castles. Men and
Hey,
mounts.
before you keep going, that's the difference in what eyes you look through during this story. Arya sees one thing as a child,
Mhm.
and then a seasoned warrior that is the Hound sees it for what it really is.
Right. There's people. There's people with torches moving in mass, and the drawbridge is coming down, and people aren't supposed to be going in from the outside. They've been told not to go in from the outside. Well, why is that happening, right? And so yeah, he's realizing what's going on here. Absolutely.
Very, very quickly.
Yep. Yep. He's obviously already reaching for a sword. He knows this is a fight.
Yeah.
Fight. Yep. Men and mounts wore plate armor, and 1 in every 10 carried a torch. The rest had axes, long axes with spiked heads and heavy bone-crushing armor smashing blades. Somewhere far off, she heard a wolf howling. It wasn't very loud compared to the camp noise and the music and the low, ominous growl of the river running wild, but she heard it all the same. Only maybe it wasn't her ears that heard it. The sound shivered through Arya like a knife, sharp with rage and grief. So this is clearly her bond, probably with Nymeria, although I could see a theory that maybe she's able to bond with the desperation of Grey Wind. And either Nymeria is so close that she can clearly hear this, or the bond between the various wolves is so strong that, and it's obviously it's very ambiguous, as we always talk about. George writes deliberately ambiguously. There's close to correct interpretations.
Right. I think Nymeria and Arya's bond is the strongest. I know people will say John and Ghost, Bran and Summer, because he goes into them all the time. Arya,
well, and there are people out there who think that the reason that Nymeria and Arya can bond across continents is that the Riverlands are somehow specially magical. I've heard that theory.
I mean, we were saying that before we started, and something popped in my head. If the wall is a hinge of the world and it stops magic going in either direction, could the neck be also another hinge of the world that was, you have something magical built at the wall, but you also have something magical that was destroyed at the neck? It was magic induced, the hammers of the waters. Could the neck also be stopping some magic? Maybe not as well as the wall because it wasn't a complete destruction, but stopping enough of the magic to keep some of it into the Riverlands. I mean, obviously there's magic going because I think Littlefinger mind melds with Joffrey while he's at Winterfell. So there's definitely magic going from King's Landing to Winterfell. But some of the lesser magic that is easily blocked by the residue of what happened at the neck could be keeping some into the Riverlands. Either that, or it's got the most amount of Weirwood roots.
Yeah, and then we have to keep in mind that as we said, George will break the rules when he needs to, and so you know, it sure seems like whether you believe that the Crow is Bran or Bloodraven, that there's something going through the, you know, from the north of the wall to the main series at some point. Now maybe that's because through the Weirwood net coming or something, and so maybe that's different, right? Because the roots maybe actually go underneath or something, right? I mean, you could see something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely believe that Bloodraven and Bran are not the three-eyed crow. Neither one of them are the three-eyed crow. But the Bloodraven being able to use his magic past the wall toward the south of the wall is definitely from the Weirwood roots going underneath the wall. And I know we're told it in the show.
To be honest, so I'm not sure that he actually can, but then Bran can if he can. So either way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's affecting things that are in the south for sure.
He is going. No. That's not true, right? He definitely is the tree. No matter what, he's the tree, right? And the tree and the crow appear together. We're specifically told that in the crow dreams, the tree appears separately, and that's Bloodraven, right? And so, I mean, it's the whole point of the crow not being Bloodraven. So Bloodraven actually is. You're right. Bloodraven is actually going going into dreams from north of the wall. So that's absolutely
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
definitive.
And him being wed to the tree and being the tree in the dream, I mean, completely
Yeah,
supports him using the weirwood roots that go underneath the wall to stop magic at the wall. The three-eyed
Right.
crow is somebody completely different.
Well,
It,
either way, that proves that you can send dreams from north of the wall to south of the wall.
right. I think there is a workaround to basically everything in this world. There's the way to there's a loophole for everything. It's just knowing what the loopholes are. I strongly believe the three-eyed crow and by extension Littlefinger know what loopholes there are available to be used. But what was I saying? We were talking about um, the bond, the magic. Hell, I
Yeah,
can't remember what I was talking
you
about.
were questioning whether there could be additional hinges and
Yeah. I mean,
whether the
it's something.
codes are special and so forth.
Right. I mean, it's something that magical that happened at the neck should have a residue. And if, I mean, granted, there's spells and everything weaved into the stone at the base of the wall. And the theory is the reason the wall gets higher all the time is because it keeps stopping winter, the full force of the winter, the others, and that stopping of the ice and snow from full-fledged winter is what keeps building the wall higher and higher. Um, uh, damn, I can't remember, but I mean, there's got to be something at the neck, I think, that is affecting some of the magic and could possibly be turning it back, which would have the same effect in the north. Um, why the Starks family are so magically powerful, even though they didn't know it, you still have the same effect between the wall and the neck. The magic that happens in the north basically stays in the north. It hits the wall, gets turned back. It hits the neck, and for the most part, gets turned back. So it's circling there, and then also it's circling in the Riverlands. The little bit of magic that gets through, coming down, coming south, and the magic there. I mean, the it's
Well, and anybody who points to that and says, "Well, no, then you can't do things." Your point is, well, we already know you can do. So you can, for example, send dreams through the wall. So therefore, you could also say that
yeah.
Littlefinger.
Now my thing is about the water. Now we're told in the show that the White Walkers can't cross water, and then I believe it's hinted that the Weirwoods can't go over bodies of water.
Well, it would be kind of silly if the White Walkers could, because then what's the point of the wall?
Yeah, this is true. But the Weirwoods over bodies of water.
Just vampires not going over running water, is there something like that? I feel like I've heard that before.
That sounds familiar. I will have to look it up. Are you looking up now? Are you?
Let's do that. Vampires running water. I feel
Yeah,
like
we ain't got a big chapter.
there is something with that. Running water at least renders it paralyzed. Huh.
So, man, I can leave my faucet running at night to save me from the vampires.
Natural sources of permanent water that moves and not rain or emptying your water skin on the vampire.
It does
No,
what?
you can't just artificially create it. It has to be like natural water that's flowing.
Do we need to watch Roose Bolton at the Twins in?
Well, he specifically does cross the water. Huh. Anyway. Where were we? Okay, so anyway, my favorite interpretation is that Namir is nearby, hearing Grey Wind, but I can see them. But as we said, there's lots of alternatives there. More and more riders have emerged from the castle, a column 4 wide with no end to it. Knights and squires and free riders, torches and long axes. And there was noise coming from behind as well. When Arya looked around, she saw that there were only two of the huge feast tents where once there had been 3. One of the built collapsed. For a moment, she did not understand what she was seeing. Then the flames went licking up from the fallen tent. Now the other 2 were collapsing, heavy oiled cloth, settling down on the men beneath. A flight of fire arrows streaked through the air. The second tent took fire, and then the third. Screams grew so loud she could hear words through the music. Dark shapes moved in front of the flames, the steel of their armor shining orange from afar. A battle, Arya knew. It's a battle. And the riders. She had no more time to watch the tents then. With the river overflowing its banks, dark swirling waters at the end of the drawbridge reached as high as a horse's belly. But the riders splashed through them all the same, spurred on by the music. For once, the same song was coming from both castles. I know this song, Arya realized suddenly. Thomas Sevens had sung it for them that rainy night the outlaws had sheltered in the brew house with the brothers. And who are you, the proud lord said, that I must bow so low? So,
I think
so
we should put out a Christmas album.
So both Kat and Arya are thinking the lyrics to the song. We're specifically told there are no lyrics, nobody's singing, right? They're just, it's just the music is so memorable and everybody knows the words.
Did you hear what I said? I think we need to put out a Christmas album.
I don't think so.
Come on now.
The
It might
Riders,
sell. You never know.
I doubt it. Especially, let's demonstrate some subscriber count before we
Okay. All right. Everybody spread the word so we get subscriber count up to where we can have, you see, Lady Thistle agrees. Christmas album.
We never did say the North remembers from Chris, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it should be about Chris anyways.
It's amazing he survived.
Yeah, I know. Lady Thistle, you could rewrite the words to the Christmas songs to make them a Song of Ice and Fire adjacent, and we'll make. I'll learn to play the guitar finally, and then Richard can sing.
I've always wondered if Honor and Glory was a reference to Lucky Man. Anyway, I mean, because Lucky Man is actually about a guy who's so rich that even his mattress is covered in gold, and he specifically starts off by saying he had white horses. It's like the opening of the song. Anyway,
hey, before we go any further, this is how technologically insufficient my brain is. You might notice today that the glare in my glasses is not as strong as it has been. And that's because it finally took me till now to realize that it's not the glare from the bathroom lights. It's not the glare from the overhead light. It's not the glare from when it's not cloudy out and there's sun coming in the windows. It's the glare from the phone. So I just turned the brightness down, and there's still a little glare, but it's not as bad. Just letting everybody know how stupid I am.
The Free Riders were struggling through the mud and reeds, but some of them had seen the wane. She watched as 3 riders left the main column, pounding through the shallows. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. Clegane cut Stranger loose with a single slash of his sword and leapt onto his back. The courser knew what was wanted of him. He pricked up his ears and wheeled toward the charging destriers. In a coat of gold or a coat of red, a lion still has claws. And mine are long and sharp, my lord, as long and sharp as yours. Arya had prayed 100 times for the hound to die, but now there was a rock in her hand, slimy with mud. She didn't even remember picking it up. Who do I throw it at? Well, that sounds like potential Brantham leaping right there.
There you go.
She jumped at the clash of metal as the game turned aside the first long axe. While he was engaged with the first man, the second circled behind him and aimed a blow at the small of his back. Stranger was wheeling, so the hound took only a glancing blow, enough to rip a great gash in his baggy peasant blouse and expose the male below. He is 1 against 3. Arya still clutched her rock. They're sure to kill him. She thought of Micah, the butcher's boy, who had been her friend so briefly. Then she saw that, which is interesting that she decides to say so briefly, as if he's no longer important to her, almost.
Right. She's like kind of just making his friendship less important.
It's like she's basically saying that her relationship with the hound has become more important than her relationship with Micah. I think that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Then she saw the third man coming her way, so it's pretty important that she has this rock.
Yeah.
Moved behind the wane, fear cuts deeper than swords. She could hear drums and war horns and pipes, stallions trumpeting, shriek of steel on steel, but all the sounds seemed so far away. It was only the oncoming horseman, a long axe in his hand. He wore a surcoat over his armor, and she saw the 2 towers that left him for a fray. She did not understand. Her uncle was marrying Lord Frey's daughter. The Freys were brothers' friends. Don't! She screamed as he rode around the wane, paid no mind. Claus? More like Claus. Santa Claus, yes. When he charged, Arya threw the rock the way she'd once thrown a crab apple at Gendry. She'd gotten Gendry right between the eyes, but this time her aim was off, and the stone roamed sideways off his temple. It was enough to break his charge, but no more. She retreated, darting across the muddy ground, the balls of her feet, putting the wain between them once more. The knight followed at a trot, only darkness behind his eyesight. She hadn't even dented his helm. They went round once, twice, a third time. The knight cursed her. You can't run for... The axe head caught him square in the back of the head, crashing through his helm, the skull beneath, sent him flying face first from his saddle. Behind him was the hound, still mounted on Stranger. How did you get an axe? She almost asked before she saw. The other phrase was trapped beneath his dying horse, drowning in a foot of water. The third man was sprawled on his back, unmoving. He hadn't worn a gorget, and a foot of broken sword jutted from beneath his chin. Ooh, we've got broken sword symbolism here.
Yeah.
Arya has Stockholm syndrome. Hi, Sanji.
Hey, Sanji Pod.
Yeah, it could be Stockholm syndrome. Get my helm, Clegane.
She hasn't been with him that long, though.
Yeah.
I mean, in the show, that they spend quite a bit of time as the odd couple on the road. It's some of the best parts of the TV show, even if some of it was add-on. Especially how they have to eat every chicken. I mean, the chicken dance that they did in the tavern. But in here, they're not together that long.
Sure.
So I mean, I like the Arya has Stockholm syndrome, but maybe not.
Yeah, sure. And part of it is that he's genuinely trying to take care of her, and I think maybe she notices this.
Right? Yeah, she actually is seeing, whether she'll admit it or not. A decent person spends enough time around the Hound, even though he's done all this bad crap and for whatever.
He definitely enjoys killing children. Don't get us wrong.
Right. He, the diamond in the rough, the actual core of a true knight that's somewhere in there.
Yep.
The Sansa, Arya, I mean, they can see past all the...
It's funny how much of the story is people realizing that their naivete at thinking of true knights, and then you've got people like Jamie and the Hound who are starting to think, maybe I could be like the true knights.
Well, I'm not so sure that the Hound is thinking that way, or once he's not taking the gold from Joffrey, he's able to be himself. He's not standing behind as a sworn sword.
There have been hints from this in the very first book, right? He refuses to kill his brother when the actual Clegane Bowl takes place, right? Because it would be dishonorable because his brother's not wearing his helm.
Right.
And so he's always honor.
That was an opportunity that you saw how he was, but when he's answering to Joffrey or whatever, then you see the just like Lord Ned puts on the face of a lord, the Hound puts on his scarred face when he's Joffrey's dog. I mean, but when he's on his own, the scars seem to be left.
He has his own code, which definitely includes obeying Joffrey, and he knows what a piece of crap Joffrey is. But he's but it's part of his code is I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna obey and so forth. But he also has his own sense of honor, and he wants to. His disdain for the knights includes the fact that he's able to do better than them, right? That he believes that he's the better. He's better than the knights the way he conducts himself. Yeah.
Well, I mean, from what we've seen, most of them are just pompous asses.
Sure.
I mean, they're so full of themselves. You got Renly, the Knight of the Flowers, just the innate armor that he wears, and then pulls a kind of a shady trick when it comes to his steed versus the mountain steed of being in. I mean, the Hound is plain armored. It's well maintained, but it might not. It looks like crap, but I mean, he's better on the. They look better on the outside. He's better on the inside.
Sure. Anyway, we just said, "Get my helm," looking Growler. It was stuffed at the bottom of a sack of dried apples, in the back of the wain behind the pickled pig's feet. Arya upended the sack and tossed it to him. He snatched it one-handed from the air and lowered it over his head. Where the man had sat, only a steel dog remained, snarling at the fires. "My brother!" "Dead," he shouted back at her. Do you think they'd slaughter his men and leave him alive? He turned his head back toward the camp. Look! Look, damn you! The camp had become a battlefield. No, a butcher's den. The flames from the feasting tents reached halfway up the sky. George does like this idea of things reaching towards the sky, right? And part of that,
reach for the sky.
and that sometimes it looks like maybe it's hinting at tree magic, and this might be hinting at fire magic. I don't know.
Well, I think both combine to make Godspeed.
And that could be the idea of the fiery comet being grabbed by the magic of the weirwoods or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you stop and think about it, I mean, Godspeed is carried on the wind, and burning wood, especially weirwood, the ashes rise into the wind, so you can combine fire magic and tree magic to have increased Godspeed or something like that.
But we often see that, scratching at the sky, reaching for the sky, that sort of thing, right? So but we do it with the trees rather than with the fire. So it's just kind of interesting here. Some of the barracks tents were burning too, and 100 silk pavilions. Everywhere, swords were singing. Now the rains weep o'er his hall, not a soul to hear. She saw 2 knights ride down a running man. A wooden barrel came crashing onto one of the burning tents, burst apart. The flames leapt twice as high. A catapult, she knew. The castle was flinging oil or pitch or something. Come with me, Sandor Clegane reached down a hand. This has some Terminator vibes. Come with me if you want to live.
There you go. I was thinking the same thing. We've been talking together too long, man. I was thinking the same damn thing.
We have to get away from here, and now. Stranger tossed his head impatiently, his nostrils flaring at the scent of blood. The song was done. There was only one solitary drum and its slow, monotonous beats echoing across the river, pounding some monstrous heart. The black sky wept, the river grumbled, then cursed and died. Arya had mud in her teeth, her face was wet. Rain, it's only rain. That's all it is. Yeah, right, Arya. We're here, she shouted. Her voice sounded thin and scared, a little girl's voice. Rob's just in the castle and my mother. The gate's even open. There were no more phrase riding out. I came so far. We have to go get my mother. Stupid little bitch. Fires glinted off the snout of his helm and made the steel teeth shine. You go in there, you won't come out. Maybe Frey will let you kiss your mother's corpse. Maybe we can save her. Maybe you can. I'm not done living yet. He rode toward her, crowding her back toward the lane. Stay or go, she-wolf. Live or die. Arya spun away from him and darted for the gate. Poor choice of words there, dude. Anyway.
Yeah.
The porthos was coming down, but slowly. I have to run faster. The mud slowed her, though, and then the water. Run fast as a wolf. The drawbridge began to lift, the water running off in a sheet, the mud falling in heavy clots. Faster! She heard loud splashing and looked back to see Stranger pounding after her, setting up gouts of water with every stride. She saw the long axe, too, still wet with blood and brains, and Arya ran. Not for her brother now, not even for her mother, but for herself. She ran faster than she'd ever run before. Her head down, her feet churning up the river. She ran from him as Micah must have run. His axe took her in the back of the head. Up next, Storm 53, Tyrion 6. Explain to me why it is more noble to kill 10,000 men in battle than a dozen at dinner. What we're seeing here is not exactly a dozen.
Yeah, it's true. In that flash of a moment, Sandor Clegane is not thinking, well, I can get gold from her somewhere else type thing. He is, at his core, a true knight saving the little girl.
Absolutely.
He's come to somewhat care for her. I mean, he could have made more gold selling them back to the Lannisters, and they'd have forgave him for leaving King's Landing and all that. I mean, I know Pod gets on to me for liking Jaime and the Hound. I like them for different reasons, but
they're similar. They're kind of similar.
They're similar, but it's
portrayed as villains who go on to try to be better.
Yeah, well, the big difference between the two is the outward appearance of both characters. But I mean, I really like that George wrote that in there. I like that you can see what kind of person the Hound truly is when it comes to with all that's going on. He's running toward the castle instead of away from the fighting in the castle to save little Arya. So I mean, it says a lot to me about the Hound, which is
And
another
of course,
one.
nobody supposedly nobody saw the Hound, but there's all these stories about Rob having his head on his wolf head on him as he's killing people and so forth, and you've got the Hound killing people here with while wearing the
Yeah.
helm, and so so it sure seems likely that what you have is people dismissing stories of the Hound as myths about Rob,
Mhm.
when the reality is they did see him. They're like, no, nobody saw him. Like, yeah, they did.
And I know it's been a while. I know there's several rereads, but with book club and then me and you doing this, it's been a while since the last reread of this chapter. And when we get to these chapters, especially when it's been a while, and with my memory, I tend to blend the show and the book in. Because in the show, Arya makes it inside to see uh, Greywind killed, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, she's sneaking around. I think she sees Greywind killed, but for some reason, I was thinking that was going to happen. And I'm looking, and I can see the next page where the chapter ends. I'm like, she didn't have enough time to go inside the castle. But then I realized what I did. I had blended the two together and thought that there was more in the book than what's there. What's in the book is enough for sure.
The other similarity in this chapter.
Yeah, but I mean, what's a couple children? I mean,
Attempted murder. Attempted.
look how many children that Jamie saved in King's Landing when he killed the pyromancer and the Mad King. He's allowed to kill a couple. I
Well,
mean,
I always thought the Jory thing was worse, right? Because at least he's justified in somewhat in trying to protect his children and silencing Bran, but he's enough justified that both both of Bran's parents kind of think about it, and they're kind of like not that upset about that whole thing.
they would
They're
have done
kind
the
of,
same. Basically, they would have done the same thing.
they have some empathy. They both have empathy
Yeah.
for Cersei and Jamie in that scenario. Whereas he kills Jory in theory that should be murdering Tyrion, right? Because when somebody has a hostage, if you go and start killing their people, they think of it as somewhat justified or at least easy to understand, right? That he's killing somebody to protect his children, right? So
Yeah.
that's almost self-defense. If you're killing somebody to protect your children, um, I was just waiting for Pod's comment.
Yeah, so was I. Uh,
So I get that. No, he's not justified. I get it. But I'm saying that they kind of understand, they empathize, and it's almost like self-defense or at least defending your children and doing so, right?
Yeah.
And whereas Jory is, if anything, it's signing a death warrant as hostages are supposed to be understood of his brother when he attacks Jory in the street. It's a ridiculous it's a ridiculous thing, right?
well, that also shows his arrogance because he doesn't think a Jory is equivalent to a Tyrion.
Tyrion, right? Yeah, it's really really ridiculous murder for no reason that accomplishes nothing, and if it did accomplish anything, now
The
people
only
had to
reason
do that.
that is in
I
the story.
take it seriously. That's what people say.
Well, the only reason George put that in the story, well, it is. I mean, Jamie's an asshole, but
But of
Ned
course, you're correct. Yes, we get it that he put himself in that position. He's the one that endangered his children, not Bran. Sure.
Yeah, but the Jory the Ned had to be injured. There had to be him out of commission for a little bit. There had to be tension to make Robert go hunting. There was a reason why that scene's in the story. It's to move the plot along to get to certain points to make certain points possible. But I mean, I agree. There are times that yeah, Jamie's an asshole. But I mean, he's the bad boy that I tend to like. Okay, I'm sorry. It's his
And that's kind of
other.
the whole point is that people aren't pure
Well,
good or pure evil and so forth.
I've said it before.
Not the consequences of my own actions.
Exactly. For the characters that we like, we always tend to give them a pass. That's like the very first
About
chapter.
some of these
We
characters,
see.
though, it's just how bad they are before they start to become better people, right? Like,
Well, I'm sure there's going to be some. I mean, Jamie's not going to be perfect going forward. There's still going to be something that will make Pod raise his eyebrow and give me a hard time about. Um, but I mean, they're characters on a page. They're written by one man, and some things are character building, and some things are moving the plot along. Uh, but we got to take them all with a grain of salt. I like Jamie even with all his faults the same way I like the Hound even with all his faults.
his death would be so perfect, but okay. I still think it's going to be a fake death. I definitely am on the same page that it cannot be the case that Catelyn Tully, who specifically says after her sister has announced that Tyrion has a right to trial by combat, then says it's not too late to deny him trial by combat. Like, and yet supposedly there's going to be a trial by combat. That makes
All right,
no
let's do it
sense.
this way.
That makes no sense.
George's original out outline for the story that he was pissed got leaked had Jamie becoming king. All right, how do you go from making a man king to killing him in a cave? I mean, I know George likes to dial things up to 11, huh?
And part of that may be because he was specifically trying to make Jamie into Oedipus, right? See, Triplets are Grants, episode 5.
I definitely feel better after this chapter than I did last Friday. Again, I apologize. Like I told the battle car and y'all, it's a really hard chapter on me. Rob is like Chris's favorite character. There's not too many. I mean, I don't hate Catelyn as much as like the Aura Green Hand and all them do or anything. There are things that she does I don't like. There are things that she does do I do like. But when it comes to Rob and Ned and those characters I like a lot, and to see them die, especially the way they die. You see Ned beheaded after he lies to save his daughters, to say that Joffrey's the one true king and all that stuff. For him to lie, even though he doesn't like it, it goes against his character. And then to turn around and basically have his head chopped off in front of everybody. And then Rob getting stabbed in the heart. And of course, Jamie Lannister sends his regards, which that line only sets up Stoneheart and Jamie further on because that line was said.
The sword thing, like, and all the more reason why she wouldn't give the trial. Anyway, Lady Thistle is not a trial for him. He's dead no matter what. It's a trial for Brienne. He needs to sacrifice his pride. Right there. How did you make your text so big?
What's that?
Oh, and on my screen, Lady Thistle's text is like twice the size of normal. It's really weird.
It's normal on my side.
This is small text. This is giant text. This is small text. I don't get it. Anyway.
Oh, it's just showing you that it's incorrect.
Anyway, I still think it's going to be that he's an echo of Davos, and Davos is constantly being fake killed and imprisoned and so forth, and so
yeah,
it's because I'm yelling. Yeah, but somehow I realized it. That's what's weird.
All right,
I didn't take a screen grab of this.
Okay. I know I touched on this the other day. We're going to touch on it again today. I believe it's called WorldCon is coming up that George is going to again. And we're told that from the time that he gives the story to his editors, that it takes about 3 months for us to get the book.
Yeah, that's part of the pod. That's right. And they both lost their part of their hand. Right, they're both the tier symbol.
But it's about 3 months from the time the editors get it till we get a book. That at WorldCon he's going to announce that he's done, because he said as soon as he hands it to the editors, he will let us know. So we'll quit giving him shit. But the theory is that he's going to go into WorldCon, because in his post he said something about writing some more Dunk and Egg, and it roughly takes about a half a year to get one of the Dunk and Egg stories done. But the theory is that we should get Winds of Winter for Christmas.
This is Dragon to Man stuff, basically, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I wholeheartedly agree. I wish I hadn't watched the video, because now my damn hopes are up, and I've been let down before by George several times.
I wouldn't get your hopes up with this one too much.
Yeah, well, it's already up. I mean, I'm like everybody else. We've been waiting on wins.
If you were making good
progress, I know
progress,
Lady Thistle gets on to us.
He'd let us know. He'd let us know if you're making good progress, getting close. He's not there.
Well, I know he said he's finished some characters, because he writes a character all the way through, then writes another character, and then figures out where to put the chapters in the story.
He didn't actually say he was done with Cersei. He said he finished a clutch of Cersei chapters. So he writes bunches, and then sometimes he has to split them up into multiple chapters and so forth. So, but he didn't actually say I'm done with Cersei. What he said is I finished a clutch of Cersei chapters.
Oh, okay.
So
my bad.
Slightly different, but anyway.
Don't correct me.
Did you see me laughing when he said hand stuff?
All right.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's
short chapter.
You're probably done enough.
Oh, wait, who's next?
Short chapter.
Who's next again?
Sorry.
So who's next?
Oh, Tyrion.
Tyrion. Oh, yay.
Yeah, this was when Tywin claims that explain to me why it's wrong to kill people at dinner versus slaughtering in battle and so forth.
Before we read that chapter, since we got a couple of minutes, what's your take on that? Is it better to kill 2,000 or 3,000 people versus 10 to 20,000, if not more?
I personally, I'm a bit of a utilitarian about that. If it was actually what was happening, but of course that's not what's happening.
Right. I mean, it doesn't end. It doesn't end the fighting. They're still fighting.
He's actually slaughtering thousands, right? If it were true that
I just said 2 to 3,000.
I could see the argument, but he's just lying.
Well, I mean, the question is, would you kill 3,000 people to save 10 to 20,000 people's lives? And the 10 to 20,000 people's lives that you're saving, a portion of those are going to be women and children that are just collateral damage.
And in the battle, the other side had a chance also, says Pod.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm asking, if you were the Tywin in the story, and you could kill 3 to basically just kind of end crap with that portion of the wars that are coming to save 10 to 20,000.
If you were Arya, would you give the name Tywin to Syrio Jock and Hagar?
Yeah.
Would you say to Jock and Hagar the name Tywin, and would doing so would that be wrong? And I feel like doing so would not be wrong if she said Tywin. Of course, that's not what she does. She kills a guy for enjoying the fact that the mountain raped and ordered rapes, which was like kind of weird, right? You ought to say the mountain. You shouldn't say the guy who enjoyed the boss ordering rapes. You should kill the boss who ordered the rapes. But she's a little girl. I get it.
Yeah. Also, George had plans for those other main characters later on in the story too, so he couldn't get rid of them yet.
Sure, but I mean, would if you were in her position and you were allowed to kill a person, and wouldn't you go ahead and assassinate Tywin?
Oh, hell yeah.
Is that really what we're saying?
I say that as a 53-year, almost 54-year-old, but as a 9-year-old, the person that made me mad the last.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm not saying, I'm not mad at Arya for that. The way Preston often is.
Oh, I like that pod. Time traveling Bran should kill baby Tywin. Is he the baby Hitler in it?
Landing? Yeah, there you go. It's that's exactly what Jaime did. Is he slaughtered his unarmed king and stabbed him in the back, right?
Yeah.
And everybody seems to agree that was a good thing that he did that.
Yeah.
So it really is the same question, isn't it? I mean, if it was
the lesser numbers
and actually killing somebody who's bad and going to kill lots of people, would you do it? And I don't hear a whole lot of people saying no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. You don't see very many people making that argument.
Right. Well, on the Tywin killing at the plan at the twins, it's the opposite. Now you have an evil person,
right? Of course,
person you don't like that's killing a good person, and
it's funny when I hear people do the ends justify the means questions about an evil person accomplishing evil ends through evil means, and I'm like, it's evil and evil and evil, so of course it's evil, right? whereas if you're asking the question should you kill Ares before he kills everybody, then you're saying should you engage in an act where the person has no chance and you're assassinating them, you're performing a political assassination in order to save lots of lives, and suddenly now you're talking about arguably an evil means, but definitely a good end. And so that's what you need to be talking about when you ask the question, do the ends justify the means, right? It should be an overwhelming good end for a somewhat questionable means, not well, if you do, and people are like, oh, so clearly, if you say the ends justify the means, then this evil person was right. And I'm like, no, that was an evil ends by evil means. Therefore, they're wrong because they're doing evil.
I agree.
Anyway.
Okay. Now we can go. Are you gonna let me know on Wednesday or?
Yeah, and there's a reasonable chance. So I'll definitely let you know.
All right. Also, Lady Thistle, did you want to try to do Wednesday to get back to some theory talk? 2 wrongs to make a right.
Right. No, but maybe 3 lefts.
4 lefts make a right, or 3 lefts. You're right.
3 lefts. And 2 rights make an airplane. Anyway.
I've never heard that.
Really?
Yes, I've never heard that. But okay. One way or other, possibly see everybody on Hump Day. If not, we'll catch you on Friday. Y'all have a good week. Stay cool. And I appreciate it. Thank y'all very much. And have a good day. Bye, Richard. Bye, y'all.